Today we're going to be taking a look at the Thorfire BLF Q8. This was sent to me by Thorfire from their Amazon store for product review. This is a 5,000 lumen light with 4 XPL high densities, and it throws 450 meters, which is 50,000 candela. So let's open up the box and see what we got. We've got 2 different instructions for the UI. This goes into more detail on the mode set side instead of the ramping. This shows you how to do everything. And this one is kind of just the basics if you don't want to switch anything around and just stick with what it's got, which it comes defaultly enabled with the ramping UI. It also comes with a bag of 3 O-rings and a button. So let's move on to the light itself. The light has extremely good finish. Machining is nice. There's no sharp edges anywhere. Great knurling. Real grippy. It's a great size too. It's not huge. It fits in your hand nice. It has a electronic button here, which has an LED on each side. 2 LEDs. It lights up when it's powered on. It is waterproof IPX8. The heat sinking on this is extremely good. There's fins all the way around. You can see on the top side. It gets somewhat warm. It doesn't get super hot like other lights can. So we can see the 4 XPL high densities down there. They have neutral white emitters, which is about 5,000 K, in the large 4-bay reflector for each. Comes to a point. There's no donut hole in the middle of the beam. It's perfectly round, and it's super throwy. There's a centered spot, and then there's a big flood around it. It's an awesome light for multi-purpose. It comes apart right here. Right in the middle here it comes apart. This is where you usually would take it. The threads on this, they're square, they're nice and sturdy. They're real smooth if you grease them up. You can see the springs down in there. These springs are double springed. You can access the back PCB with the springs on it. If you unscrew here and you take these 4 screws out, you can take the whole PCB out, and the batteries are in parallel, so the button tops face up, all 4. And speaking of button top, it can only take button top batteries because the positive contact is this raised piece of brass right here. So you need to use button top batteries for this. As you can see, the button top batteries, the 4 of them, they run in parallel, as I said, where you can use 1 to 4 batteries. If you use just 1 battery, it will have the same output as using 4 batteries, but it will just have less runtime since it's in parallel. It doesn't come too greased from the factory, but if you grease it, it goes together real well, nice and smooth. There's a stainless steel bezel on here, which unscrews to reveal the reflector and the LEDs inside. But the only way to take it apart is if you go through the driver board with the 2 screws and pull the driver out. You can't modify it from the front. The front is just if you scratch the reflector, you can take it off. You can see the logo here, BLF Q8. It's got a tripod mount or a lanyard adapter if you want to put one of those lanyard holes that screw into there. Otherwise there is no other lanyard hole in this flashlight. There's just this. It tail stands great, perfectly flat. The light has many features. The side switch has an integrated power indicator, which indicates the remaining battery power. The flashlight can blink out the voltage within 0.1 volts of accuracy. It has an intelligent memory function for brightness levels. It has direct access to ultra-low and turbo outputs. It has high transmission glass. It is constructed from aerospace-grade aluminum alloy. It is hard anodized. So now we're going to go on to the UI. As you can see here, when the light is off, the switch is lit up green. So to shut off the green switch, you want to turn the light on by holding down, and then once it's ramping up, you let go and click fast, which will shut off the switch if you don't want to have it lit up for some reason. It doesn't drain the battery enough for you to notice, but it just can be helpful sometimes if you want to shut it off. So the loaded UI in this is the ramping UI. So if you hold down the button, it will go to moonlight, and if you keep holding down the button, it will go all the way up to turbo, right there when it does that bump. You know you're at turbo. And it's super bright. It's warm on my hand here. If you hold back down, it'll go all the way back down, all the way to moonlight. And it blinks again, which lets you know it's at moonlight. And to shut it off, you click once. and it has memory. So if you put it at like halfway up, shut it off, then turn it back on, it goes right to where you had it. So you could have it on turbo, and then shut it off and turn it back on, it goes right to turbo. But if you want to go straight to turbo and it's on, you double click, brings it right to turbo. And then if you want to go to the strobe modes, from turbo, you double click. So you get strobe, 2-speed strobe, bike strobe, which is constant and blinking. And there's 2-second beacon, which every 2 seconds it blinks. Then there is 10-second beacon, which it blinks every 10 seconds, slower. Check the battery level on the flashlight. You'll click 3 times, and it will blink out the battery voltage. You can see 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So my batteries are at 3.8 volts. So from the battery check menu, you can make it blink out the temperature if you double click twice. You see here 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's at 34 Celsius right now. Then from there, if you double click, it will blink out the firmware version of the light, which is Narsalem version 1.0. So it just blinks once. To lock the light out, you'll click 4 times. The light will not turn on whatsoever unless you click 4 more times. It will start to blink and it will turn back on. And there's also a mode set group for this light, which places the ramping with mode sets. So you can click through the modes instead of ramping, which is a more complicated UI. And in the description I will link to the PDF of the whole UI so you can see what it's doing, because it would take too long for me to explain that here. Now we're going to move on to the Lux test. So we got the light set up on the tripod, and we're going to do a Lux test. So multiply that by 5 and by 5. We get 48,300 lux, which is just shy of the 50,000 aforementioned in the manual. That translates to 439 meters of throw. This light is true to its manual specs, and it performs great. We brought the Q8 out into the wharf to test the brightness. The throwy and floody beam of this light is amazing. When we point it toward the lighthouse, you can see how bright it actually is. The lighthouse is about 200 meters away. I'm very impressed with the Q8's output. The way it can flood and throw far away is a great combination for this light. Now we're going to move on to some range tests. Our first distance is 248 meters. Our second distance is just about 300 meters. Lastly, it's a bit of a long shot, but we're testing it at 964 meters. I think this is a great flashlight. It's 5,000 lumens, it's got a great beam pattern, and it's super usable for anyone. After going over the light, I can't find any cons that stick out to me. Everything is almost perfect on this light. If you're looking at purchasing your first soda can light, this should be it. You can find this light for $60 to $70, and that is a great price tag. You can't find a light that outputs the same for the same price. So that wraps up this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and stay tuned for some more.